everybody, it's your Texoma Rose champion and your three-time Texas Women's Champion, La Reina de España, Myka, and you're watching O Face Wrestling.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I am joined by the three-time and current Texas Women's Champion and also the current Texoma Rose Champion, Myka. So thanks for joining us today, Myka.
Thank you, JT, for having me.
You're very welcome. So I just want to make sure I got the name of the title right. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Okay, just so if I did mispronounce it again, you can correct me. But yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on the show. And you being a two-time champion right now, that's pretty, interesting. And I actually want to start off with talking about that. So yeah, being a double champion, like how does that feel? Like you got two promotions that are like, that high on you where they want you to be, their champion. So that must feel pretty cool.
Yes, it's really awesome. The thing is, you get more pressure on yourself, or what I put more pressure on myself to be better than I am before,
Do you feel like kind of pressured where you feel like you have to promote both of those titles? You don't want to like promote more than the other and make the other promotion feel some type of way. Do you like feel like you have to like equally kind of like promote them and stuff like that?
Yeah, as long as you do it equally, then I feel like that's perfectly fine. Because, yeah, I don't want to do one and not the other. So what I do is I'll just do both right away.
Exactly, that makes sense. Yeah, because I'm that kind of person where like I don't want to make someone else like feel like left out. Like, and I can only imagine like if I'm a promoter and I have someone as my champion, they're also a champion somewhere else, and they're promoting the heck out of being that champion. And I love being this champion, but then they're not really acknowledging my company. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like, but yeah, so yeah. Now kind of like starting with the your origins in wrestling and stuff like that. So what inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
Ever since I was little, I've always watched wrestling. I think I really got into wrestling whenever I was watching. I liked watching a lot of Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, and then also Sting. I've never really watched too many female wrestlers until like Jazz and Trish Stratus, Lita. Mostly I got started off with watching a lot of men's wrestling.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it was with most of us, because like in the 80s and 90s it was dominated by men's wrestling. Even like most of the 2000s, like women's wrestling unfortunately didn't really take off until like 5 years ago, basically. Like I know it's always been, from what I've heard, women's wrestling has always had its place in the indies, but as far as like mainstream, it didn't really start popping off until the evolution happened in 2015. Right. That being said, like how do you feel like the women's evolution in WWE? How do you think that or feel like that affected women's wrestling in the indies? Do you feel like it gave them even more opportunities, or you feel like it's like kind of like the same as it always has been?
No, I feel like it's giving all us women more opportunities and working our butts off more to be better than we were, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that's
because
a lot.
Like it sucks that it's taken like this long, but like that's what the fans want, because it's a lot of people who didn't think that they could do it are now seeing it like, wow, like women, like they're so good in the ring and all that, because they were always like by WWF back in the Attitude Era, people always thought it was like a sex appeal kind of thing, and now that you're seeing them put on better matches than the men, like it's just like it's amazing. And then you see some promotions, you see women going toe to toe with the men in the ring, so I think that's great. I've always been wanting these opportunities for women. When I got back into wrestling in 2010, that was back in the Divas era, and I was a really big like AJ Lee and Paige fan, and I really wanted to see WWE do more with them and give them more than like 3-minute matches, and that finally did happen. And like I mentioned, like in 2014 is kind of when it low key was happening in NXT, and then progressed in the main roster and everything like that. But yeah, like growing up in the 90s, that's just like unfortunately that was the era that we were all in, and that's just what we were used to.
Exactly, yeah. Because I was like, whenever I joined wrestling, I was like, I want to learn how to wrestle. I don't want to be a sex pill, but as long as you know how to wrestle and do your job, then you're good.
Exactly, and I feel like it's also opening up more opportunities, and it's making parents more open-minded to their kids learning to be a wrestler? Because obviously, like, if you think that your daughter is going to grow up to be a wrestler and, do the stuff they were doing back in the day, you're not going to want them. You're not going to really, be on board with that. But now seeing what women are doing, it makes it easier for, the kids, that have their parents actually like kind of like really help them out and progress into it, as if it was like, baseball, football, all those other sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, they get the same amount of support. Because like my daughter, she likes watching wrestling, so I would support her if she would want to get into it.
So tell me a little bit about like the beginning of your wrestling career, like the training and all. Like, was everything that you went through at the beginning, was it what you expected it to be?
Well, I've always joined sports and everything, and like basketball, volleyball, even cheerleading is like demanding, and you have to be physical, be physical activity, all that stuff. So I started in 2011 at the Texas Wrestling Academy with Rudy Gonzalez, former trainer of Shawn Michaels Academy. So I trained for about a year. I got pregnant, so I stopped. And it was funny because I didn't know I was pregnant. I was still doing matches. So it was one of those weird things. And so then finally back in like 2013, 14, I got back in training. I still trained with him. And then now what I'm doing is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm training with Jazz, Rodney, and Thunder Rosa at the Pound Dojo. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll train with Rudy Gonzalez at the Texas Wrestling Academy. So I'm busy Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday have shows.
So that's
So,
actually that's
yeah.
interesting that you've been like working at the Dog Pound Dojo. I know that's I believe that's new.
Yes, it just started about in August of last year, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure about that because I thought Mission Pro Wrestling was a new thing, but it actually wasn't. Thunder Rosa explained to me that it's been kind of like an on and off thing, and then they just made it all women. So I thought when they like announced it as being all women's, I thought that was like it was a brand new company. But yeah, the Dog Pound Dojo, I think I like what they're doing. It could when as Mission grows, I feel like that could be kind of like the developmental kind of thing for them, and they could start bringing them women and on the Mission shows and all that kind of stuff. So tell me a little bit about like how like the Dog Pound Dojo like operates and stuff like that because they're new, like you said, like how kind of how everything goes and all.
It's just like regular training. So we go and stretch, and then we go get in the ring, do our rolls. Same at the Texas Wrestling Academy, the same thing. Do stretches, rolls, and then finally go do matches. Work on your promos. Work on let's see, work out. What else do we do? Yeah, and then what we'll do at the dojo is we'll actually work on the mat as well. So we're doing like mat wrestling, which is helpful too. Haven't done a lot of high flying stuff yet, so we'll see.
So it seems like it's kind of like an all-in-one kind of training. It's not just like the wrestling, like camera
Yeah,
work and entrances and promos and stuff like that, I'm assuming.
exactly. Yeah, character work, working the camera, working TV, get you familiar with all that thing stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's great because for the longest time, like indies wrestling was just kind of like wrestling, but it seems like with streaming and stuff like that, it seems like now they're starting to focus more on other stuff as well, like
Yeah.
and kind of creating and making someone like that all-in-one package kind of thing, and I think that's great because if you want to progress in the business, that's the things you have to learn. So it's great seeing training schools actually like offering that kind of training as well.
Exactly. And that keeps us working on our craft to make us better than we were. Yeah.
Exactly. So now as far as like Mission Pro Wrestling, tell me a little bit about like your experience, with them so far. I know you haven't had the match yet, upcoming match, but I do know that they seem like they make you do a lot and kind of have you start working on everything like prior to the event. So tell me a little bit about like all of that and also like how you even got like involved with them.
So I've been training for like 6 years already. So I haven't been on a Mission Pro wrestling show, but I've seen where it's all girls. They go, they help set up the ring, they promote the shows, and I'm like super excited because like this is the first time I'm doing a tag with two other girls, and then against three other girls. So I'm super excited about that. So I'm not too familiar with like all the ins and outs that Mission Pro does, but I'm excited to go and see how it works out.
Yeah, like I know when I first sponsored them back in November, it seemed like they were kind of like having the women do it like a lot, like when it came to like interviewing on other podcasts that were sponsoring and like custom matches and stuff like that. Like they really put, they put the women to work, and they also like put all the sponsors to work too. So I think that's like really cool. That it feels like an event, like leading up to the actual like event, just kind of like doing all these things and promoting and stuff like that. It's like it was a really fun experience for me. And just from what I've heard from all the other women on the show, like it seems like it's like really fun for them as well, because it's not just, oh, you come for that one day, do your match and go home. Like it's like you're doing all these like things, to help.
Yeah, you have different, yeah, I do know that you have different events that you can do, and then you have the custom matches that they record and then sell them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's cool that they offer a lot, and it seems like they're really growing, in the time ever since they've become all women. So I think that's really cool that they're very organized. They take what they do very seriously.
Yes, I like it.
So you said you've been wrestling for 6 years now, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me who are some of your favorite opponents that you've been in the ring with so far?
One of my favorites is Evilise. She came down and I had a wrestling match with her. She's one of the ladies that I look up to because I like the way she works, as solid and just smooth. And so like whenever I was gonna wrestle with her, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I had to realize, I'm a wrestler too. I can do this. So it just made me go to that next level. Another one is I did wrestle with Jazz. That was it was amazing because like I've always watched her matches and I was a little bit like intimidated, but I was like super happy, like fan, and I'm like, I need to know. So yeah, those are the two matches that I really liked doing.
And what about like some wrestlers that you haven't been in the ring with that you still like really want to work with?
Well, I haven't been in the ring with that Danny B or that Layla, so that's gonna be interesting. I've been in matches with Amber, so she's really solid, and I like working with her too. So
Yeah, Amber's been doing this for a while. I know she did take a
yeah,
break as well. Danny, I think her first like official match was like last July, so she's been under a year, and she's been doing a lot. So I'm excited to see that match and see her work with you all.
me too.
So now, next question. So I got two more. Now,
Okay.
this next one is non-wrestling related. So, tell the listeners and myself, of course, something about yourself that's, non-wrestling related that you would want to share with everyone.
Non-wrestling related. So a lot of people don't know that I'm a hunter. I like to hunt and fish. I had a twin brother. And what else? I like to go hiking a lot.
See, I'm a cardio person too. There's a lake by my house, and it's very popular around the summertime. Everyone's like
Yeah.
jogging and stuff like that. I remember I was very active going around that lake when like Pokemon Go came out. Like that was like my motivation to get out and exercise and stuff like
Right.
that. But yeah, and as for hunting, like I never hunted, but I remember playing that game on the PC, Big Game Hunting. I think
The
that's what
game
it was
hunter, yeah.
called. Yeah, that was so fun. But it's like it's nothing I could ever do in person. Like I'm one of those people, like I would just feel bad
You feel bad
shooting
after
the
killing an
deer.
animal.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel bad like fishing though. I remember doing that when I was younger. I used to get so mad because my uncle would make us like throw the fish back in. Like I actually wanted to take it home and
Oh
cook it and stuff
no.
like that.
I would get so mad at the people. I'm like, why do you guys go fishing if you're not going to keep the fish? You eat them. They're like, no, we're just catch and release. I'm like, okay, no, I think that's worse than actually just catching the fish and eating it.
Yeah, because I feel like you're literally putting a big old hole like through its mouth, and then you're
Yeah.
sending it back in. Like you might as well just put it out of its misery. Like I know that has to hurt.
Yes, those hooks are big. That's
Yeah, what's
crazy.
kind of funny, my one cousin was when he went to swing the pole,
Yeah.
the fish hook actually got stuck in my other cousin's like leg on like behind the knee part, and he was crying. Like I'll never forget that moment. But like of course we're little kids, we're laughing at him and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
We're like,
But yeah, I do remember that. That was a pretty funny moment. I don't know if he does remember it or not, but yeah, I know
I
that
still have the
happened.
scar.
Yeah, I don't know if he has a scar. Now I have to ask him next time I see him. But yeah. Now my last question that I have for you. So you've been doing this for 6 years now. So as of right now, what are some of your top goals that you still want to accomplish in the business?
My top goals are still I want to go and work with AEW and see how their whole setup goes, and eventually go work with WWE and NXT. Those are still my main goals.
So I'm gonna give you a hot question then. If
Okay.
you had to pick, and if you had an offer from both WWE and AEW, same kind of contract, so money's not a factor,
Yeah.
who would you pick?
Um, it is hard now because AEW and WWE still do really awesome. Let's say WWE because that's always been my main goal is to go straight to WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I think both companies are great. I tell people all the time, like, I love them both. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not.
they're both entertaining. Yeah.
I just think like right now with WWE, there's more like TV time, so there's more opportunities. AEW, they're still new, they're still growing. As far as like TV, they have Dynamite. They have AEW Dark, but that's
Yeah.
being on YouTube, that may not have as much exposure. I don't know how well it does honestly, but I just know as far as like actually on television, WWE got the Raw, SmackDown, NXT, so there's more opportunities for the mainstream, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like AEW is growing, and I'm really excited. I actually like want to go back sometime this weekend because I missed it yesterday. I want to watch that like match with Red Velvet and Jade and Shaq, and I don't know.
And Shaq and Cody. Yeah.
It's funny
I
because
saw
when
clips of it, and I'm like, I need to watch the entire match.
I saw the clips too, and I was like, wow, like I saw Shaq go through a table, and I didn't expect that.
Two tables.
Two tables, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, Shaq, he's this big guy. He's not a professional wrestler. He's probably gonna do like that whole like big strong man where he like
Yeah.
kind of just doesn't really do much. And then I saw him like going through them tables. I'm like, this actually looked like a fight. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't like a pay-per-view match, but like, yeah, I'm excited to see that. And AEW seems like they are starting to really grow with their women's division, so that's definitely a great place to be too.
That is, yes.
All right, so Myka, that ends our interview. So I just have to thank you so much for joining us today on O Face Wrestling.
Well, thank you for having me, and next time we'll do it again.
Absolutely. Did you want to share your social media so that all the listeners know where to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. It's under Myka Madrid. That's MYKA Madrid, MADRID. On Twitter and on Instagram, it's Myka Laura, my first and middle name, and that's it.
All right, everyone, make sure you follow her on social media. I'll put all the links below here in the bio. Also, make sure you give us a sub on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you all so much for listening today, and you all have a great day.
Thank you.